here Florencia, Alvaro, Mariana, and Sol, and we are here to present our analysis and valuation on Loma Negra Compañía Industrial, the leading company of the cement industry in Argentina. Based on our valuation, we issue a buy recommendation on Loma's LDS with a target price of $14.15, which represents a 42% upside from the closing price of December 10th, 2018. This price is built on the solid foundation comprising three pillars. The first one, Loma's strong competitive position. The second one, the expectations of a sustainable growth of the construction industry in Argentina. And the third one, the stock discount when compared to its peers. We now invite you to follow us around the construction site when we will show you the inside of this building that consists on our financial analysis, valuation, and key investment risks.
1. Strong competitive position. Founded in 1926, Loma produces and distributes cement, masonry cement, aggregates, concrete, and lime. It has an installed capacity of 9.1 million tons, which is expected to grow in 30% by 2020 when its new plant, La Malitu, starts operating. The company also has operations in Paraguay through its subsidiary Iguazu Cementos, which captures almost half of the market share. Loma provides railroad cargo transport services through Ferrosur Roca and recycles industrial waste to use as fuel or raw material through Resicom. Regarding competition, there are 4 companies that operate in the cement sector in Argentina. These are Holcim, Cementos Avellaneda, PCR, and Loma. The latter leads the market with a 45% of the share and maintains a gap of almost 20 percentage points with the second one. Loma's advantage against its competitors is based on its scale and operational efficiencies. These are vertically integrated operations, national reach, vast limestone reserves, and strategically located facilities. These ensure Loma cost-effective logistics and sound and a solid distribution network and optimal time to market. Loma Ser is the cornerstone of Loma's neural network in the central region as it distributes cement across the Buenos Aires area, which accounts for 40% of the total sales.
2. Sustainable growth of the construction industry. 2018 has been a rough year for the Argentine economy, and 2019 is expected to follow suit. However, we find this to be an opportunity for the industry, since the construction sector has shown time and time again to be one of the main allies of economic recovery. Together with this, the country shows a housing and infrastructure deficit, along with a lower cement consumption per capita when compared to its regional peers. We expect all of this to aid cement demand bounce back and regain momentum, powered by the relaunch of the broker credit programs and foreign investments.
3. Time to buy. Loma functioned as a privately owned company until its IPO in November 1st, 2017, which raised more than $1 billion. During the last year of trading, the stock fell 53% due to the impact of macroeconomic conditions that left the stock trading at a discount when compared to peers. Through our analysis and valuations, we found reasons to believe that a company's comeback is to be expected.
In our financial analysis, we estimated the cement demand by its correlation with the GDP variation and the amount of credit mortgages granted per year. We also verified that during election years, the construction industry grows much more rapidly. When referring to prices, we established the correlation between cement prices and inflation and currency devaluation. Iguazu is a whole different story, since Paraguay is expected to grow at a 4% rate per year for the period analyzed. So, moreover, the main competitor of Iguazu, Industria Nacional del Cemento, is undertaking an aggressive expansionary strategy that will force Iguazu to lower its prices. Nonetheless, this won't be a gain in market share for Iguazu, since it has no expansionary plans in the future.
Loma's cost of goods sold are heavily comprised by thermal energy and electrical power, which represented 22.5% in 2017. This is quite challenging for Loma, since these prices are directly determined by international prices and FX exchange rate. Nonetheless, the expansion of La Malitu will mitigate this effect due to the new plant's operational efficiencies. It is expected that thermal energy consumption will decrease by an 18% due to this expansion. Moving on to CapEx, Loma's maintenance CapEx has been focused on conservation and upgrade of production facilities with the objective of improving efficiency standards. To project this variable, we based our analysis on the historical values of maintenance CapEx to install capacity in kilograms. Moreover, talking about growth capex, the main growth capex project going on in Loma right now is the expansion of Loma Li 2. And in order to finance this investment, we expect Loma to incur in new debt that will in turn increase the financial debt to EBITDA to 1.5 in 2017. By 2019, sorry. Regarding working capital, we expect the values to increase in the following years due to the impact of recession and devaluation, beginning to close the gap for regaining its historical values by 2020.
Our target price calculation is based on a mix of the discounted free cash flow to the firm model and relative valuation, which were weighted 70% and 30% respectively. The relative valuation allowed us to capture the regional landscape in which Loma operates. In addition, with the discounted cash flow, we were able to capture Loma's intrinsic value and its fair market individual value, both of Loma and Iguazu, which were added through a sum of the parts methodology. Our valuation is separated in two stages. The first one extends until 2020, which is a period of economic rearrangements. The second one starts at the end of that year when the economy finally stabilizes and Loma Li 2 comes into play.
For this, we use a multi-WACC approach that allowed us to capture two main features. The first one, the need of leverage for expansionary capex, and the second one, the decrease in the corporate income tax rate in Argentina. To calculate the cost of debt, we use the outstanding debt yield of Loma and a set of corporate bonds from Argentina. This led us to an after-tax cost of debt of 6.02%. To calculate the cost of equity, we chose the capital asset pricing model adjusted by liquidity and country risk premium. We reached to a cost of equity of 16.2%. To calculate the debt to equity and the beta ratios, we used the set of peers selected for the relative valuation method.
We constructed a list of 12 Latin American companies within the cement production industries in order to avoid biases due to macroeconomic conditions. We decided to base the relative valuation analysis on the enterprise value to EBITDA multiple, since it's a ratio commonly used to value companies within the infrastructure and capital-intensive industry. Moreover, this ratio is useful when analyzing the capability of companies to generate operating cash flows when excluding interest, income tax, depreciation, and amortization effects, whose calculation may vary among peers. This assessment validated our growth expectations underlying the DCF analysis.
Throughout our research, we have come across a handful of risks that we have calculated and factored into our calculations. They have been captured in a risk basis on the basis of possible impact and risks. On the operational front, Loma may face challenges stemming from an excess production capacity from the operations of Loma Li 2 when it opens, and we also consider the situation of Ferrosur Roca, which holds the concession of a portion of the national railroad system that is directly connected to 6 of Loma's facilities. This contract is expected to expire in 2023, yet Loma has already requested the renewal of the concession for a period of 10 more years. On legal grounds, as of now, Loma is facing two main struggles. One, in form of an investigation carried by the Argentine Antitrust Commission, and two, a possible class action carried by U.S. courts. By weighting probabilities of a negative outcome, along with estimated approved claim rates, aggravated damages, and the historical duration of securities claim procedures in the U.S., we have estimated the possible impact of such claims and included them in our valuation in the year 2021. Apart from this, we've also calculated other risks such as heavier environmental regulations and those natural to Argentina's macroeconomic context, mainly due to difficulties in adjusting prices via pass-through and FX rate changes. In order to better assess these and other scenarios, we have conducted a Monte Carlo simulation and force sensitivity analysis which only secured our recommendation. All in all, we remain confident and stand by our buy recommendation, considering that we have identified something that the market hasn't priced yet. Thank you very much, and now the floor is open for questions.
You haven't mentioned on your presentation, but can you give us your thoughts about the corporate governance structure of the company? How would you grade that? You think it's positive, it's negative for the shareholders?
Okay, to assess for the corporate governance quality, we construct a deep analysis on the corporate governance quality based on the principles of corporate governance published by the OECD. We identified 3 items, which are transparency and disclosure, board of directors, and shareholder agreement. In terms of board of directors, the Loma's board of directors are composed by 7 members, which 3 of them are independent and account for the 43% of them. Moreover, the company disclosures every year annual reports in a transparency way. And lastly, there are no minority shareholders agreement, and there are no stock option, which is a positive thing for the ADR holders.
Well, apart from that, we can also mention that since it's a company that has recently done its IPO last year on November 1, 2017, it doesn't have compensation plans and it doesn't have stock options. And the compensation for the management team is based on salaries and also bonus plus bonuses based on performance. We have also estimated that they have an independent board members of 45%, which is 43%, which is more than what the Argentinian law requires and which the company subjects to.
Looking to the midterm, what do you think would be the main drivers of revenues? Or which would be the drivers of demand, more specifically?
Well, something that we have mentioned in our presentation is that the drivers of demand will constitute by, first of all, the housing and infrastructure gap that Argentina presents when compared to its regional peers, which is huge. Also, the lower consumption per capita. And we expect that the drivers for the demand in the following years are going to be expected from a lowering of the interest rates, which is going to be fueled also by the relaunch of appropriate programs by the government, and also by foreign investment, which have been secured by the government during the last G20 meetings, considering investments from the United States, France, and Europe.
Can you tell us something a little more about the cost, the main cost of the company? Energy.
Okay, so the main costs are thermal energy and electrical power, which representing 22, as I said in my speech, representing 22.5% of the cost of goods sold in Loma.
We expect that expansion from Loma League 2 will give operational efficiencies that will allow to lower these costs.
Have you looked at after the evaluation at cement prices in Argentina compared to the rest of the region, just for reference?
Yes, Argentina, due to the devaluation, has right now a price of $83, while the peers has a cost of a price of $100 per ton.
Tell me a little bit about the medium-term revenue forecasts that you're putting in your valuation. Your valuation talks about going up to 2020 and then starting again based on a more healthy economic environment. So what revenue growth rates are you assuming, and what's the foundation for those?
We are assuming a growth rate of 3.5%, and we have analyzed that in the sensitivity analysis. And we expect that to be in line with the GDP projections that were estimated by the IMF, as we assume that that's a credible source, maybe more than local forecasts.
Also, something to point out is that we have taken the most conservative assumptions or expectations that are taken currently by the IMF and the World Bank for Argentina, considering they have said that there's going to be a deficit or a recession at around 2.6% this year, and the numbers are much lower than that.
How do you incorporate all the political risk for Argentina next year, presidential elections on November 1?
For the political risk, yes, we have 2 scenarios, which are the bull and the bear, and there we have differentiated several variables. One of that is the elections, and we have calculated all the variables that would be worsened if a Peronist government is elected, and then the bull scenario would be continuity with Macri or another candidate that will follow his policies. So we have impacted the following variables, which are inflation, depreciation of the Argentine peso, I'm missing anything, and the GDP growth.
Is there any risk with this company? It has 45, 46% of market share. Is there any competition risk? with either regulation for them having monopoly type power or competitors trying to undercut them? Tell me about that.
Well, as of now, as I mentioned in the part of my speech, there is an investigation that is currently being conducted by the Argentine Antitrust Commission. But since the regular term for this investigation to take place almost took, the last one, for example, the last look that the Argentine Antitrust Commission took on the cement market took up for 5 years until a fine was finally imposed. And also the market since then is heavily supervised. So we don't expect that there's going to be another fine in the following years, or if it's going to happen, it's going to happen after 5 years when the whole procedure takes place. Especially considering that Argentina has recently passed a new anti-competitive law, antitrust law, which heavily increased the fines that were imposed to companies that engage in anti-competitive behavior.
How do you quantify the potential risk there if they were to be fined?
It was quite difficult to quantify because there hasn't been any new fines imposed by the regulator on this new law. They have been increased, and the maximum fine, for example, is 2 billion Argentine pesos.
For which type of investor Loma is suitable for? For retail, for an institutional investor? How do you see?
We think that it can be a stock for both institutional and retail investors, as long as they are confident that the Argentine macroeconomy will grow and stabilize. But we believe that it's a stock that allows us or investors to capture Argentina's risk or growth.
Now you have a strong buy on the stock. What's the biggest risk factor that would change your mind?
The biggest risk factor right as of now is that the Argentine economy doesn't start growing after in our second stage, and also we have calculated and factored the potential impact of the class action that is currently being held between U.S. courts. There has been a lawsuit that was presented on June 21, and now there is another lawsuit that was presented last week. We also have calculated this based on the probability of dismissal, which is 5 to 9%. We took an average of all the securities claim procedures that have been around in the U.S. in 2020. Also approved claims rates, which goes from 20% to 38% of the total aggravated damages of the claims. And that we have calculated also the potential impact in 3 years, in 2021, since that's what usually takes for a procedure of in the U.S. for claim securities.
The dollar value there?
The total value as of now, until the class hasn't been already established, so we took an average, for example, taking the price of the action of the stock of 9.95, is going to be around $100 million, $98.88 million approximately.
One question regarding, you mentioned about the energy cost. What's the exposure of the company to energy shortages in terms of maybe in a more critical environment, for instance, for Argentina in the next few years, in terms of changing government, etc., that could have difficult access to energy from its providers. Do you think that how the contracts with companies for the energy providing for working? How do you think that?
Well, first, we think that Loma already assesses that risk as it has production during winter and autumn, because we think that we assume that Loma does that to avoid all the power cuts that occur in summer. So we think that they are already including that in their analysis of the company. They also have Resicom, in which they recycle fuel to use as energy? Yeah. Okay, to use as energy. And Resicom, the energy they produces, it only accounts for 4% of Loma's costs, of this type of energy, but in other companies it is much more, so we think that there might be growth there for Loma to be less tied to contracts. However, we don't expect the companies...
Sorry.
my mind